Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. So today we're jumping right into something absolutely wild. We're looking at a truly fascinating ancient framework that proposes a pretty radical idea. It argues that the planets in our sky don't just orbit the sun in some cold vacuum of space, but that they actively dictate the architecture of our bodies, our families, and our minds.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this source material we're looking at, it's not just your standard abstract astrology. It presents a highly structured, intricate mapping of human biology and psychology directly onto celestial bodies. We're going to look at how this ancient text links specific planets to specific diseases, specific relatives, and even specific years of your life.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're taking an archetypal journey through 5 stages: the luminaries, action and intellect, wisdom and love, grief and discipline, and finally, the shadows.
All right, Section 1, the luminaries, the sun and the moon. In this framework, these two form the absolute foundational core of the human experience.
First up, we've got the sun, or Suya, and the text defines the sun through this concept of the Atman. Basically, it's the ultimate soul, the deep consciousness inside all beings. And because it represents the absolute core of your identity, it makes sense that the sun also rules over foundational structures in the real world, like father figures, the government, royalty, and ultimate authority.
Now, looking at the baseline metadata for the sun and the moon, it's just this perfect study in contrasts. The sun is male, it's fiery, and it governs the pitta, or bilious humor. And incredibly, it literally rules your bones. Its key year of activation, your 22nd year of life. On the flip side, the moon is female, watery, governs the blood, and activates in your 24th year.
The text uses this really fascinating two faces technique for every planet. Basically, a pure state versus an afflicted state. So, a pure sun, that brings radiant leadership, nobility, serious vitality. But if it's afflicted, that fire kind of burns completely out of control. Psychologically, you get arrogance and a really dominating nature. And physically, it manifests as literal heat. We're talking fever, cholera, and high blood pressure.
Then we have the moon, or Chandra, which represents the mind, or manas. In its pure state, it governs the mother, your deepest emotions, agriculture, and growth. But look what happens in the afflicted state. When that watery nature gets disturbed, it brings mental unsteadiness, moodiness, and lunacy, which, by the way, is a word literally derived from the lunar cycle. Physically, an afflicted moon brings on ailments related to cold and dampness.
Moving on to Section 2, action and intellect, which covers Mars and Mercury. If the luminaries are our soul and mind, these two are our tools for engaging with the world. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer physical intensity of Mars. It's all about raw action. In a pure state, it governs your energy, courage, surgeons, and your younger siblings, specifically activating in your 28th year. But when afflicted, watch out. That aggressive energy turns into a thievish nature, severe rashness, and violent physical disruptions. Things like dysentery, boils, or just sudden accidents.
Next up is Mercury, the planet of intellect and speech. It governs your 32nd year, your maternal uncle, and the pure, clean realms of science, logic, and commerce. But when the planet of the nervous system and intellect is afflicted, that intelligence twists into cunning and deception. Physically, the text points out it causes some terrifying neurological issues, like epilepsy, vertigo, and even the complete loss of speech.
Section 3, wisdom and love. Jupiter and Venus. Here we're exploring the planets that this framework says govern our absolute grandest earthly and spiritual rewards.
I really want to highlight this surprising number from the text, 16. This is the specific year of life uniquely associated with Jupiter, the planet of higher knowledge, wealth, and the elder sibling.
Think of Jupiter's micronarrative as, well, expansion. In a pure state, it expands your life in beautiful ways, bringing wealth, children, righteous dharma, and wisdom. But in afflicted Jupiter, it expands things way too much, or just in the completely wrong direction. Psychologically, you become over-optimistic or really prone to gambling. Physically, the text says it expands the body via fat, affects the liver, and causes blockages like thrombosis.
Venus governs the 25th year of life. Pure Venus is your ultimate bestower of earthly pleasures, the spouse, love, beauty, the arts, and what the text calls conveyances, which basically means vehicles and luxuries. However, when Venus is afflicted, that pursuit of pleasure turns pretty toxic.
It brings scandal, a tragic lack of affection, and physical ailments linked to excess, like diabetes or venereal diseases.
All right, Section 4, Grief and Discipline. Time for Saturn. We're going to slow the pace down a bit here because Saturn represents profound limits, the weight of time, and harsh reality.
Saturn's domain is incredibly heavy. It rules grief, the past, and deep introspection. In its pure state, this gives you amazing discipline, perfection, asceticism, and that meditative quiet that actually leads to enlightenment. But in afflicted Saturn, it brings a crushing darkness. It makes a person fearful, deeply melancholic, indifferent, and honestly, even cruel. And this brilliantly illustrates the crazy specificity of this system. Just look at the interconnected domain of Saturn. It activates in the 36th year. It governs the labor class and agriculture, but also deep, dark things pulled from the earth, like oil, mining, and factories. And physically, it rules ailments of stiffness and deterioration, gout, rickets, and rheumatism. Finally, Section 5, the shadows, Rahu and Ketu. These aren't actual physical planets, but the mysterious, chaotic north and south nodes of the moon. They are forces of absolute transformation. Okay, the symmetry in this breakdown is just incredible. Rahu, the north node, links up to your paternal grandparents and your 42nd year. Ketu, the south node, links to your maternal grandparents and your 48th year. And check out these bizarrely specific oddities. Rahu is associated with hiccups and insect bites, while Ketu governs stammering and snake bites. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Rahu is known as the Caesar. It represents an intense obsession with worldly materialism. In its pure state, you get intense intelligence, sudden fame, and a real mastery over modern technology and psychology. But in afflicted Rahu, it literally drives the mind to madness. We're talking compulsive, hedonistic behavior, intense phobias, and it's even associated with dilapidated places and slums.
Ketu, on the other hand, is the planet of moksha, ultimate spirituality, secrecy, esoteric knowledge. Ketu represents that sudden, uncontrollable mass of energy, often called kundalini, that just completely shatters our illusions and separates us from our worldly attachments.
Because Ketu is all about severing ties to the material world. Its pure state brings mysticism, profound enlightenment, and it's symbolically linked to smoke and sudden, striking phenomena like comets. But its afflicted, chaotic nature, that manifests violently. Think hidden worries, poisoning, plagues, and even literal severing, like amputation.
I actually want to pause on this exact quote from the source text regarding Ketu. It governs enlightenment and apparent obstacles on the way to enlightenment, right? It brilliantly shows how this ancient system viewed even our greatest, most painful obstacles, not just as random tragedies, but as deeply necessary components of our spiritual architecture. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question. How does your own cosmic balance feel today? Like, when you actually look at your family dynamics, your physical health, your mental state, can you see the echoes of this ancient, fascinating architecture at play in your own life? It's a lot to think about. Thank you so much for exploring this with me.